Hey, this is Randy from Lamb of God, and you're on BackstageAxxess.com, where the real show begins.
Gus Gressinger here with Backstage Access at Darien Lake Amphitheater in Darien, New York. A beautiful summer day actually here in Darien, actually the hottest day on record so far this year. And we're here with actually a hot star himself. I mean, you're a very busy man this month.
Yes.
You got this really thick book that I can't even handle because it's got so many pages. Dark Days right here just came out, the Copper Press, actually a couple weeks ago. The new album just dropped last Friday, titled Seven Sturm und Drang, which is German. We'll get into that later in the interview. So you're a very busy man.
I am.
Yeah. So welcome to Buffalo and Darien, like I was saying earlier.
Yeah, this is the hottest day on record.
Yeah, so far this year.
This is really nice. We just came from Georgia and Florida, and this is really nothing.
Well, obviously, for us, it's actually a pretty big deal. Welcome, and we're going to talk about the book, and a great read. Very, very well written, by the way.
Thank you.
Randy Blythe, a fantastic writer, and like I said, first autobiography here. Frontman of Lamb of God. We're very pleased to have him here today, and let's talk about why the book was written. Obviously, everybody pretty much knows out there that you were unfortunately went through a difficult circumstance in Prague, and a couple of the questions that I had starting off. Getting into Prague after the incident, and you were completely unbeknownst to what was going to happen to you, and when you were actually the first initial when you were arrested, I mean, what was your reaction, the band's reaction? How did that all go down?
I don't know how the band reacted because I was going off to prison.
Right.
For me, it was just a big shock. You know, we had played a show there in 2010, and a young man had gotten injured and died. No one ever informed me or my band of it. Not the American government, who had been contacted by the Czech government.
Right.
Nobody from anyone, no one let me know that there had been an injury, much less a death. I mean, obviously, otherwise we would have addressed it. So I got off the plane and was met by basically a SWAT team at the end, and they're like, "Here, we're charging you with manslaughter." And I mean, it's very bizarre, very surreal, because 2 years gone by, we're going back to play a rock show. When I got off the plane, saw all these dudes with guns and masks and body armor and stuff, I was like, "Ooh, someone's in trouble."
Or somebody's a nice escort or whatever.
Yeah, so
right?
somebody's in trouble, and it's kind of laughing, and then it's
Right.
like, "No, they're here for you, dude."
Yeah, right.
You know, so it was very bizarre.
Reading the book, one of my takes is I cannot believe the American embassy was almost little contact with you besides a visit here and there, and they didn't really do anything to step up to the plate or give you information of what was going on. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, it's something I don't understand to this day, really. I mean, the woman from the embassy, she was really nice. She was just following, apparently, standard procedure. I was arrested lawfully by the Czech government. You know, they didn't snatch me out of a bus and kidnap me or something. I came to their country and they arrested me. But when I got a call from the embassy, I asked, you know, what's going on? They were like, "Oh, we'll send someone down in the morning to check on you. But we can't give you any legal advice." I'm like, that still doesn't compute to me to this day, right? I would think that besides ensuring the welfare of its citizens in a foreign country that live there, that an embassy would kind of want to be able to help, you know, their citizens. They're in trouble, and I'm not, like I said, I was lawfully arrested. I didn't expect them to send in SEAL Team 6 or anything, but they kept my family informed, apparently, of things that were going on, but, I mean, they kind of said there's really nothing you can do.
And do you think if you weren't Randy Blythe of Lamb of God and you were maybe like Taylor Swift of some pop star?
Oh, God. If I'd been a pop star,
like that,
dude, you know, of course.
Right.
Of course. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and I'm not, beyond all that, you know, I mean, if I mean, if Justin Bieber had gotten arrested, they would have sent in someone, and he's Canadian, you know? Like, beyond all that, I mean, I'm not trying to say I would deserve treatment because I'm in a band, different treatment, because that's nonsense, or try and take a viewpoint of, like, American exceptionalism, like, oh, I'm an American, you can't do this. No, they arrested me legally. But I don't understand why our government wouldn't have some sort of protocol in place to provide some legal advice for our citizens. If they weren't going to, the Czech government contacted them and said, we want to investigate this guy. And they said, no, we're not going to cooperate with your investigation. That's cool, right? Because they didn't deem it, you know, necessary. But let me know, right? Let me know I'm wanted for manslaughter in a foreign country. And then once I'm there, I mean, come on, you know, like a British prison group watch, like a prison watch group came to visit me. No one from America, you know. And I saw him at the city jail, and then they came to my trial. That was it.
Amazing. I mean, we can go on.
I pay taxes.
Yeah, exactly. We could go on all day about the American government and take that seven different ways. But we'll try to stay on course here. I want to talk about the prison pan-rats. Pancrats.
Yeah.
Being in a jail like that, and I don't think people understand, being in any jail obviously would be terrible, but being in a jail that you don't understand the language, which probably people don't understand, compute, and you're not getting any help from the American embassy at all. How did you deal with that on a daily basis?
It was very frustrating. You know, there was a guy, when I first went to prison, there was a guy in a cell next to mine who spoke English, and he helped me out with a couple of things, like asking, you know, we couldn't leave our cells at first to go to commissary to get like stuff like from the prison store, and I didn't have any money on my books anyway for 2 weeks because I was arrested with foreign currency, and then they had to transfer it and all this stuff. But when I finally did get some, this guy would, like, you know, help me out with like writing a note in Czech, because everything had to be submitted in Czech. Anything I needed, or any sort of communication I was trying to figure out, or anything I wanted to ask a guard, anything, it all had to be in Czech because no one spoke English. So this guy helped me out a little bit, and then my cell got moved, so he wasn't there. For me, it was just really a matter of like accepting the situation for what it was and staying in the moment, and realizing that, you know, there are people in the world who are in fact far worse off than me at that time. I mean, the prison was not a nice place. It wasn't fit for human habitation, but I wasn't being tortured. You know, I did have food to eat. I did have clothes. I did have a roof over my head. I wasn't in the desert in, you know, Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere getting shot at. So, I mean, there's people. I've also traveled quite a bit, you know, and I've been to countries where, for the great majority of its citizens, running water is a luxury. You know, I didn't have hot water in my cell, but I had running water, and it was safe to drink. If you look at things and put things into perspective, you know, it's like, okay, I got to be grateful for what I have rather than resentful for what I don't have.
And some of the security guards actually, I think, knew who you were. They kind of, you know, helped you out, but there
was one or two. There's a guy, there's when I got arrested, there was a security guard in there who was a big Lamb of God fan, who came by and brought me some cigarettes, which, when I smoked, that's valuable currency in prison.
And being clean and sober at the time of your arrest, how did that like translate into you like keeping sane from the moment, like you were just explaining, or did you actually at any time think of the alternative?
No, absolutely not. And I think that was one thing that a lot of people were really worried about. I know they were, because they told me, was that, you know, me going to prison and going through this stuff, I was going to get upset and I was going to drink, you know, go back to drinking in order to try and deal with the situation. And I could have gotten messed up while I was in prison. There's drugs in every prison. I knew the drug dealers, you know, I knew who they were. But it just never appealed to me because, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with drinking if you can do it normally, you know. I cannot.
Right.
So I partied for like 22 years, dude. And at the end, I just wanted to die. So, no matter how bad my situation was in prison, I didn't feel as bad as I did, when I was still drinking. So I was like, I got to keep my head clean, got to keep it clear, keep it clean, and focus on, trying to get out of here and do the right thing.
And writing this book, it's obviously, you could tell, like I keep on showing how thick this is. How long did it take you to write the book itself? And how long did you kind of like mull over about either taking some stuff out that might have been too personal or adding more stuff in because it's, wasn't maybe as detailed as you wanted it to be?
Well, I wrote about 4 chapters over the course of 4 months at the end of our last tour cycle because it's really hard to write on tour.
Okay.
Then as soon as we got off, I went to the beach and sequestered myself away from humanity and wrote for 8 months straight.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really leave anything out. It's an almost 500-page book.
Mm-hmm.
My contract called for 80 to 100,000 words. I turned in 247,000
Wow.
words. So that's a lot. So there had to be some amputation.
Right.
We got it down to about $1.75, I think, which turns out to like 488 pages, almost 500
Mm-hmm.
pages. Really, it's, the book could have been twice as long because my mind goes all over the place, but there was definitely some fat that needed to be trimmed. That's what an editor's for. There wasn't any rewriting per se because I wrote really clean, really carefully, but there was amputation, There had to be because I can be rather long-winded in case you can't tell from this interview.
I was gonna say, and especially this, like I said, the book's 500, pages. Just, I know it's a great read. It's something you're not going to put down. So definitely check it out and pick it up.
It moves quickly.
Yes, what you want to keep the fans interested. So, or even people who just like to read books.
The reader, yeah.
Right. Going back to the Prague incident, it took a lot of courage for you to actually go back to a country that actually they released you, and then your moral compass inside you said, you know what, I'm going to face this head on, whatever will be.
Yeah.
You took it on. Looking back on it, would you today still make that same choice?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, here I am.
Yep.
And if I had gotten found guilty,
well, you wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't be here, but I would have been able to look myself in the mirror and call myself a good man because, like, I felt, for my reasons, I felt ethically obliged to return. And when we touched on sobriety earlier, when I drank, I drank to deal with my problems. Right. And then you're just drunk with problems, which is even worse.
Right, you got 2 problems.
Yeah, you got 2 problems. And, now I got to face my problems.
The book is like we keep on talking about it, and you wrote obviously well more than what the book requires. Is there going to be possible follow-up or even something different?
Oh, there'll be
an
something
offshoot?
different.
Yeah.
Nothing offshooting
like,
from that, no, because writing the book wasn't therapeutic or cathartic for me. I learned a lot about the writing process, which was nice, but it was not fun. It's not. I mean, there's a lot of humor in the book because that's how I deal with difficult situations. It's dark humor. But it wasn't really fun writing it because it was just going back through
reliving.
Yeah.
Right.
And I had to do that in order to try and tell it as artfully as possible, is really live in it for a bit and reread a lot of my journal entries and try and get an exact timeline down of the stuff and get it down while the memories were fresh,
Like I said, it's a great read. Everybody's got to pick it up, but we're actually going to switch over and talk about another interest of yours, which is photography.
Yes.
And, I want to know what you shoot, what type of camera, and what's your interest, what's your main subjects that you like to shoot?
I shoot, my primary weapon is a Canon 5D Mark III full frame. Mm-hmm. But before this tour, and I have a Fuji XE2, I think that's what it's called. It's a small mirrorless, but it's not full frame. But before this tour, I got a Leica Deluxe Type 109. It's a point and shoot.
Yep.
But it's the most insane point and shoot. So, it takes great images. I can edit in the camera, shoot it directly to my phone, and I can carry it around. It's small, you know. It fits
Right
in
there.
this, you know.
Yeah,
I
earlier
carry
when
it with
you
me
came up, yeah.
everywhere I go. My Canon is big, and I got to switch lenses and all that other stuff. For when I'm just like I was shooting last night, I shot Slipknot last night. I used my big camera, but I've shot them with the little one too. But for when I'm just cruising around, you know, it's just great to have a camera on at all times because you never know when you're going to see something cool. For me, my favorite, you know, subjects are really what the world presents me. I like interesting looking people. You know, I don't like shooting like the beautiful people generally, you know, like because it's boring.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can like look at a fashion magazine if you want that. That's not my thing. I'm more of a street photographer. I like to capture, you know, interesting.
Off-center, something
Yeah.
A little
just
different.
some interesting moments, you know, whatever the world provides me.
And I think you had actually did you have a show regarding your work?
Yeah, I had a show up in a gallery in New York in Soho not too long ago.
We can see more of that?
Yeah. It was a pretty successful gallery show. It was at a gallery called Sacred Gallery in Soho, and it did quite well. You know, it was up for 2 months, sold quite a few pieces, frame pieces, large format
Good
stuff.
for you.
It was really exciting.
Sturm und Drang, and I don't know if I'm saying it's German, but
Sturm und Drang, I think that's how you say it. I can't say it either. Don't worry.
Storm and Stress is like the translation for us English people here. Tell us about the naming of the record, and tell us a little bit about it. And it just came out obviously a couple days ago.
Yeah, it just came out a few days ago. The album, as I was, you know, I think a lot of people expected me to write some sort of prison record, you know, but it's not.
Right.
There's two songs on the record that deal with that situation very directly, and I wrote them while I was in prison, you know, so I was doing a lot of writing in there, and I was like, I'll write a couple songs. But those are really the only two. The album, and we didn't write a concept record because we don't do that. The album, though, as I was writing lyrics and looking at all the pieces, it seems to very much relate to how humans as a species like how we react or respond to stressful situations. And so we were looking for an English term that would encapsulate that idea of how humans deal with stressful or extreme situations, you know. And we couldn't find one. My guitar player speaks German, though.
There you go.
You know, his mom's from Germany, and I'm like, look, dude, you know, maybe the Germans could come have something, because they have these great way of cramming these weird concepts into one word, like zeitgeist and stuff like that. So he eventually hit me back, and he's like, are you familiar with Sturm und Drang? And I'm like, yeah, as a, you know, an English student in college, I'd studied it some, the literary movement, and the translation is perfect. So it's, you know, we wanted an English title, but couldn't get one.
It just didn't happen. You know, listening to the record and the first single, Overlord, when I first heard the single, I'm like, okay, this record's going to be a very different record because you do a lot of clean vocals on that track. But actually, the first single is really not like the rest of the record. So I was kind of curious why that single was released first, just to kind of keep people...
Well, it wasn't. We released 2 tracks before that.
Oh, okay. I thought Overlord was the first track.
No.
Okay, so straight
we released Still Echoes, which is like the fastest, metal on the record. We released that first, and then a more mid-paced, screamier one, and then Overlord was third.
Okay.
Now, it would have been weird to release a song with clean vocals.
Yeah, that's what when I heard that, I'm like, this is going to be interesting. And then I heard the rest of the record after that, so I didn't hear the first 2 songs.
No. We released 2 other ones.
Okay. So tell us about the Overlord track. Was that something purposely that you guys want to just try something different?
No, I mean, what it was is our guitar player, I was writing my book. I was living down at the beach. And, you know, my guys had gotten together, and some of them were just riffing at home, working on ideas. And Willie, our guitar player, was like, man, I got some riffs. We were just texting one day. I'm like, well, send them to me. You know, I'm not ready to get into it yet, but I want to see where your head is. So he sends me them, and I put them on my iPod, and I go down to go surfing one day, and I'm like, I'll listen to his stuff. And it was just some bluesy type stuff he was playing. And it wasn't like he was like, I'm going to write a clean song. It was just what he was screwing around with his guitar, you know. And as soon as I heard it, I just started humming and sort of singing along to it. And I was like, wow, man, they finally wrote a song I could sing to. Because there hasn't been a song so far, really, I don't think, where clean vocals would really fit. At least not that I heard immediately. So, you know, it was just really natural. It wasn't like, let's try something different.
Okay,
it's just
so
like,
it's organic.
Yeah, exactly. It just happened that way.
I want to talk about Embers, too, because Chino kind of, you guys worked together. I want to know how that process went.
It was awesome. It's the same way.
Chino from the Deftones, in case
Chino, the only Chino anyone would ever talk to in this sort of scene, you know, talk about. Same exact story. They'd been tracking some stuff. I was going surfing. They sent it to me on my way to the beach at the end of the day, and the song had two different endings, and one was like real straight metal. Like, I mean, it's cool, but we've done it for 21 years now.
What you guys are known and loved for.
Yeah, and then I heard the second one, and I'm just like, ooh, that's awesome. It's spacious. So I told him, let's use that one. But as soon as I heard it, I was like, this sounds like something Chino would sing on. And so I listened to this song a lot up until we got into pre-production, and I just didn't know what I was going to do over that part because it sounded like a Chino part to me. And I walk into pre-production one day, and Josh and our guitar player Mark are sitting there listening to the track, and they're like, one of them looked at me and said, hey, what do you think about Chino singing on this? And I'm like, perfect. It's all I've been able to hear. So I hit him up. I'm like, dude, we got a song with your name all over it. You can do whatever you want. He said, send it to me. If I dig it, I'll do it. And he did. He came out to L.A. while we were recording, and it was awesome, man. Chino crushed it.
Obviously, listen to the record. It's great. It's a typical Lamb of God record. That's why I had to ask you about the track. I wasn't sure, but don't fret out there, Lamb of God fans. It's a typical record. You're going to love it. Go out and pick it up, along with Dark Days. That just came out a couple of weeks ago. You write very well, I should say.
Thank
it's
you.
a great read because you can't put it down, and that's what you want from your readers. Something that's like, I gotta go to bed, but I want to read another chapter.
That's you know, that's a big compliment
Yeah,
on that. You know, a lot of people have told me that, so they've been losing sleep. That's a good sign.
Lamb of God frontman Randy Blythe, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, sir.
BackstageAxxess.com. Check it out.